But let's see how the voice is going in South Australia, shall we? Because we know that they don't care about the referendum. They forged on ahead. Anyway, get this. Less than 10% of the people eligible to vote in this vote, selecting their 46 voices that would constitute the South Australian voice, less than 2,500 people actually elected 46 people. Some of those 46 people got as little as 6 votes each. Remember, if you're a South Australian taxpayer, this thing is costing you $10.3 million over the next 3 years. And these $46 elected representatives, elected by a piddly handful of people, really, with over 90% of people eligible to vote being like, I actually can't be asked, to be honest. Now, this is what South Australia is dealing with. If that doesn't tell you that people are simply not interested in this, even those who are like, oh, you are Indigenous and therefore you get to vote who is, of the 46 people making up the voice, who they are, they're not remotely interested in participating.
I mean, it's harder to get elected to a country council, for heaven's sake.
Indeed.
And I love, Caroline Marcus pointed out the other night that another part of all of this was that they had to have like a gender balance, right?
Right.
So they were actually picking and choosing who would get to be elected after all the votes had been counted on the basis of sex. And there was a case of a woman who had more first preference votes than a man, but she was denied a spot on The Voice because they already had enough women on first preferences. So some bloke with less votes than her got elected in the interests of gender equity. Isn't that fantastic?
It turns out that less than 10% of the 3% of people in South Australia eligible to actually vote bothered to participate, which certainly raises questions about the legitimacy of this thing. And basically it ended up, and this has been said by a number of Indigenous people in South Australia, whoever could wrangle the most friends and family to turn up at the ballot box managed to get elected. So now activists are actually floating the idea, should we make voting for The Voice compulsory rather than voluntary to try and give it some form of legitimacy? But
that is incredible.
You keep getting small numbers of people making decisions for the majority.